They say a single kiss can change a man's heart. But hers? It changed the fate of a whole empire. But how? Well, let me introduce you to Cleopatra. They call her the Queen of the Nile, but behind that name is not a queen, nor a woman. It was a weapon. You may ask, what do I mean by that? But in order for me to explain, we will have to rewind back in time. In 69 BC, Cleopatra the 7th Philopator was born in an extremely toxic royal family. She wasn't supposed to survive the throne. Her family, the Ptolemies, were Greek by blood, and let me tell you, those motherfuckers loved killing each other. When Cleopatra took the throne at 18, Egypt was broke, divided, and crawling with Roman influence. Her little brother, Ptolemy XIII, was technically her co-ruler. But co-ruler didn't mean partnership. It meant constant internal war. The palace was a shit show, and Cleopatra was surrounded by snakes. Not those, but those. Her brother's advisors hated her confidence, her intelligence, and her refusal to play the obedient doll. So they did what power-hungry men always did throughout history. They tried to erase her. So what happened next is that they literally kicked her out of her own damn kingdom. The poor girl was wandering in the Egyptian deserts like she was nothing. But Cleopatra wasn't built to give up. So here, everything looked bad for Cleopatra. She lost her title, dignity, home, and everything. Then in 48 BC, fate sent her a gift wrapped in Roman armor. Julius Caesar. The man was basically the most powerful general alive. Fresh off chasing his rival Pompey across the world, Caesar arrived in Egypt, only to find Pompey already dead, murdered by Cleopatra's own brother trying to impress Caesar. But the Roman ruler didn't like that. He saw it as weak and cowardly. And Cleopatra knew exactly how to turn that into an opportunity. So, you know what she did? She sneaked back into her own palace rolled up inside a carpet. Yeah, literally wrapped like an Amazon package. She was carried straight to Caesar's quarters. When the thing unrolled, out comes Cleopatra. She looked godly. Golden skin, jeweled eyes, and lips so good they would make your father cheat on your mom right now. Okay, I'm getting carried away. Anyways, Caesar froze. The old war machine who had faced down armies suddenly forgot how to breathe. She spoke to him not as a slave, not as a woman begging for mercy, but as an equal, maybe even a queen above him. And that's when she had him. From that moment on, Cleopatra wasn't just back in the game. She was owning the game. That one thing flipped the entire board. Caesar, the man who crushed nations, now found himself orbiting around her like she was the damn sun. And she knew exactly how to play him. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning ahead how they will build empires. She made him believe in her vision. An Egypt strong, independent, and loyal only to her. Soon enough, war broke out. Caesar backed Cleopatra, and together they fought against her brother's forces. The Nile burned, the palace turned into a war zone, and when it was all over, Ptolemy XIII ended up drowning in the river while trying to flee from Caesar's forces. But she wasn't done. Oh no, she wanted more. A year later, she gave birth to a son. Caesarion, half Roman, half Egyptian, a symbol that Rome and Egypt weren't just allies anymore, they were now one bloodline. And if you think that didn't scare the Roman Senate, think again. Caesar invited her to Rome publicly. She rolled up to the city as a full-on queen. She literally pulled up to Rome with a gold crown and followed by servants behind her like an army. Rome's elite wives hated her, and the senators accused her of bewitching Caesar. And to be fair, she kinda did. You know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and that is exactly what happened. On March 15th, 44 BC, Caesar was stabbed 23 times by the same senators who once bowed to him. Cleopatra wasn't there, but she didn't have to be, because the moment those blades went in, she knew the message: you don't belong here. She packed up her crown, her son, and whatever was left of her pride and sailed back to Egypt. Rome took her first lover and her first empire, but she was gonna take their next ruler. When Cleopatra came back to Egypt, she wasn't that desperate queen begging for help anymore. Nah, she came back better, sharper, and colder. And she knew one thing for sure: power is the only man worth sleeping with. After Caesar's death, Rome fell into a civil war, and three men stepped to fill the vacuum: Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. Together, they called themselves the Second Triumvirate, the new rulers of Rome. In this instance, we will focus on Antony. That man wasn't just a politician. He was a beast. He was relentless and always fought like he had something to prove. In 41 BC, Antony summoned Cleopatra to explain why Egypt hasn't helped Rome in their latest campaign. Most of people would have been terrified, but Cleopatra actually smiled, and she did the unthinkable. She made that beast come to her. When Antony arrived in the city of Tarsus, what he saw wasn't a queen. It was a performance, a show straight from the heavens. Cleopatra didn't walk out of a carriage. She sailed on a golden barge with purple sails. Her servants fanned her like she was Aphrodite herself. Antony, the killer of kings and the lion of Rome, froze. A very familiar scenario, right? The Roman ruler didn't see a woman. He saw a goddess, and Cleopatra knew exactly what he was thinking. She always did. That night, they dined together. She poured his wine, teased his pride, and laughed at his might. The kind of laughter that makes men forget who and what they are. By the end of the night, Antony wasn't commanding her anymore. He was worshipping her, just like Caesar did before him. Soon, the general who once ruled Roman armies was living in Alexandria, drowning in obsession. Cleopatra gave him everything he desired, except one thing: peace. Four years later, Antony was given her land, wealth, and soldiers. He declared her queen of kings, her children rulers of the east. The man who once served Rome now knelt for Egypt. And Rome wasn't new to the story. They already been through it with Caesar. Octavian, Caesar's heir, saw what was happening and weaponized it. He told the Senate that Antony had fallen under her spell, that he was ruined by lust for an Egyptian witch. Cleopatra at that point wasn't just a queen anymore. She was a massive threat to the Roman Empire. Rome declared war, but not on Antony. It was on Cleopatra herself. The Roman navy finally pulled up to Egypt, massive fleets under Octavian, and Cleopatra stood beside Mark Antony, the last man on earth who still believed in her. Or maybe, just maybe, the last man she truly cared for. Together, they prepared for one final stand, the Battle of Actium. Antony's forces lined up against Octavian's, and in the middle of it all, Cleopatra's golden ship shimmered like a mirage. Even at war, she refused to look normal, but beauty can just get you far in battle. Sadly, Octavian's navy crushed them. Fire spread across the sea. Antony's men brutally died. Cleopatra, the woman who could bend generals and make kings worship her, couldn't do anything but run away. At that moment, Cleopatra knew the battle was lost. Antony saw her ship retreating, and he thought she was abandoning him. His heart shattered right there in the middle of the battle. He literally followed her while his fleet was collapsing behind him, and at that moment, Octavian officially won the war. The couple returned to Egypt in silence, both being a shell of their former selves, and after hearing the false news of Cleopatra's death, Mark Antony chose to end his own life, believing he couldn't live in a world without her. The empire she built on charm and power was collapsing. The only person she cared for took his own life, and Octavian was marching to Alexandria as an Egypt's conqueror. And for the second time in her life, Cleopatra felt hopeless. On August 12, 30 BC, Cleopatra dressed in her finest robe. She laid on a bed beside a basket, a small quiet basket hiding a deadly secret. Inside it, there was an asp, a cobra that is sacred in Egypt. They say she held it close to her breast, let it sink its fangs into her skin. Her last breath was calm, no screaming, no nothing, just silence. The serpent's bite had done what no sword, no man could have ever done. Cleopatra, the woman who made Caesar kneel, who made Antony worship, who made Rome tremble, died alone in her own terms. And if you thought her fall was sad, wait till you see Caesar's. Watch this video right here to learn more about the tragic life of Julius Caesar.